All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is Greybeard and Ash Red from the Twisted Pair Leaf and Grain Society, and we've got the one and only Storm, who is the founder of Cigars for Warriors. And Storm, I want to say thank you for joining us, brother.
Well, I appreciate being on here, guys. One of my favorite podcasts of all times. I've always enjoyed listening to y'all. So it's an honor to be a part of your show.
Well, thank you so much. We are extremely honored. I know from my speaking, I'll let Greybeard go on because I kind of interrupted him, so I apologize.
No, you're good. I was just going to say it's an honor for us, and we're the Twisted Pair, so we're all about pairing. So let's just kick it off with what we're pairing tonight. And I am smoking find the right camera angle here with the blurred background. I'm smoking the Harem and Solomon, the blend that they did for you guys, and pairing that with Antique 107. Weller Antique.
Very nice.
And great minds think alike, because I wanted to do the same in honor and show respect for everything that you are doing. So I am smoking the same. And we'll talk a little bit about this cigar and kind of tell you as we get into the show. I'll probably have you more speak about it, but it's a great cigar, but it's special, and we wanted to do it for the show. And I'm an Air Force brat, and so my daddy always drinks beer. He's a beer guy, and so I am drinking a stout to pay respect and honor my dad.
Very cool. Well, everybody listening, you're not going to believe it, but we did not get together and pick our cigars. So yeah, I mean, it's become one of my favorite cigars, especially when Eddie came to us asking what kind of cigar he wanted for the first generation. And I do a lot of events, a lot of festivals where sometimes that cigar is just a prop and you don't really get a chance to enjoy it or smoke it. So you don't really want a real complicated cigar. You want a cigar that's tasteful, that you can talk around with your buddies. And to me, he hit it right, perfect. It's not the one you want to sit there and try to create some long ass review of. It's one that you're going to enjoy with the buddies, your friends, and it's just good all the way through. It's just smooth. I've been very proud of it. In fact, the older they've gotten, they've actually gotten a lot better. And so right now, for the ones that do not know, they were the original company to get on our Synergy program. And the Synergy program is basically this. It's an idea to give an example to a company. How can you support us? Thinking nobody on the planet would ever go for it. It was just an idea of a program. And the idea was, hey, we want you to make one of your showcase cigars products, because it could be anything besides cigars too, but it needs to be a showcase, not a regular store cigar. And we want you to sell it to only our donation centers, the ones that are signed up as CFW official donation centers. Mm-hmm. And 100% of your profits go to us, which means you got to show us the books as well. And thinking nobody in the right minds would ever agree to that. It was just a way to start off a conversation. Well, Eddie and when George was part of the company, both of them jumped on immediately. They said, that's exactly what I want to do. So thinking, okay, that's a one-off. Never going to happen again. Well, 30 minutes later, I'm talking to Caldwell, Robert, and he's asking, I really want to get into charity. Me and my wife are all about charity. I've been wanting to do something with you guys forever, Storm. So what can we do? I said, well, this is what Hiram and Solomon did. This is what we figure out. He goes, perfect. I said, well, what do you want to do? And then by the end of that trade show, we had 6 companies, and we really only wanted 6 cigar companies, because you've seen other programs over time that started, like TAA, which is great organization, but I think it's been way overpopulated in cigars. So if you're a collector, and there's nothing wrong about being a collector, a chaser of cigars, you just can't keep up with it. So a lot of people just kind of stop doing it. And so think about 6 companies, 6 cigars, you get one every 2 months. You can afford to buy that box or 2 boxes, one to store, one to smoke. And I really think it's a good idea. It keeps us from being over greedy, and it allows our supporters to support us correctly, and allows the companies that are supporting us to get really good marketing. Even though that's not why they're doing it, we try to give back to everybody who supports us.
Love it.
That is very awesome. And I mean, it is an enjoyable cigar to smoke. So, because I've had it to where I was like, I wonder what this, I bought it because I know like 100% of the proceeds goes to Cigar for Warriors. So that was the main reason I bought it. And it was very enjoyable. So if you haven't had one, I'm going to encourage you to go out and purchase this, because it's 100% of the proceeds go to Cigar for Warriors. So,
and just for clarification for anybody listening, it is 100% of the manufacturers. So our donation center, this is another way of giving back to our donation centers that have supported us, because you want to think about the pandemic, our finances got crushed, as you can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
But the stores really kept us in cigars, and Drew Estate gave us a couple of really big donations that kept us solvent, because you can imagine during the pandemic, our troops were suffering even more than normal while they were deployed. And so we had a ton of requests, and so it's been a real blessing, and it really was a way also to give back to the donation centers. It was a way to do something where a manufacturer in our stores could communicate very easily, where a company, say a cigar shop, has never had a history with, Hiram and Solomon, say. But instead of having to buy 40 faces or $50,000 worth of products before you get this limited release, all you got to do is buy a minimum of 2 boxes. So we kept it very careful, simple, no contracts. Anyway, this starts out a nice conversation between the manufacturer and our retailers. And again, it's a way to give back to everybody, keep everybody a nice conversation. Any cigar shop, if they don't like the cigar for whatever reason, can easily absorb, 40 sticks. So been very proud of it. They're on the 2nd generation right now. They're selling fast. So if you go to your shop and it's a Cigars for Warriors shop and they don't have them, go to your manager or owner and say, hey, we want to order a box, please, quickly.
And
anyway,
I'd like to add to that, if the shop isn't a Cigars for Warriors shop, tell them that you want to order a box, and then tell them you also want to donate cigars for Cigars for Warriors, because that's your guys' livelihood, right? I mean, this is, the name of it, Cigars for Warriors. And so tell us a little bit about, we're going to kind of go backwards here. We're going to go into Cigars for Warriors, and then we'll get to who Storm is and how you kind of but hey, we're already talking about it. So tell us about what it is that you guys do.
So the mission, and someone actually, one of our volunteers actually pointed this out, that about half the interviews I do, I always bring up the mission at the end of the show. So it's probably wise that people have never heard about us. The mission is very simple. We give the #1 requested item, which we know are premium cigars by our troops, men and women. And we know this because we did a 3-year survey, a little over 6,800 responses. We had 10 different products on there with the option of an other, so they could write in. And by far, cigars were the largest amount. Now, for transparency's sakes, about 20-30% of the locations we were putting on social media were cigar groups. The other 70% were focused on military and just random kind of communities that allowed us to do it. Our original treasurer, Ben Edmonson, he's the one that actually did it, and he did a great job. And like I said, and it's funny, every year we created stats for it, and there was a couple of years where coffee was #2, or video games was #2, and it depended on locations too. So it was pretty interesting because one, I never drink coffee in my whole 18 years in the military.
Wow.
And never played, definitely never got to play video games while deployed. So
I was going to say.
So cigars was a good thing, and so the mission is that, and it started out truthfully for all of it. I'm not just the founder. I'm a co-founder of 7 of us. And it started out really just say thank you. Very, very simple, cheap way of saying thank you to our deployed troops. And, think about it. You're in the middle of Somalia, you're in Africa, you're in Bosnia, you're in one of the Middle Eastern countries. It's not exactly you go to the Circle K store and buy a cigar or snuff or cigar or something. So this is our way of giving back. It's the healthiest way of giving back if you want to think of other outliers of stuff you could be doing for stress management sakes. And when you think about deployments, you're either so busy you wish you were bored, or you're so bored you wish you were busy. There's no middle ground. There's no easy. It's just one or the other. And so Cigars we found is a very good stress management. But, the mission really started developing even more. And kind of like I said, going backwards a little bit. Treasure, me and Ben were talking one day before this whole thing started up. And what it meant to us, he was a old submariner from Korea War, and I'm a, OEF, OIF combat guy, and on land. And the similarities of what a cigar meant to me and our men was almost perfectly identical. And that was kind of shocking, but really neat. It really translated to something to us. And what it translated is like a stress management. I guess one of the good stories is during Iraq, the first when we deployed and invaded the country, we had been sitting there in Kuwait for almost a month listening to all these horror stories. And you can imagine the anticipation of the worst things happening was a huge stressor. Kind of like you're going to get a shot, and it's going to suck, and it ends up the anticipation of it sucked a lot worse than the shot it did. So this was happening a lot, and there was a lot of suicides that first 4 or 5 months. And since our team was one of the teams that were out of the wire every day, I was trying to think of what could I do to keep my guys, talking without asking them, how you feeling? Because that's the last thing you're going to ask a soldier, because he or she's not going to tell you. So what I did is I would take my rank off and my blouse and had a no salute, no rank area during the 2 hours of smoked cigar, meaning that they could come in and they could say anything they wanted to. Typically, they called me a lot of 4-letter words, but get it off their chest. And I found that my guys' morale was, stayed up, pretty good, considering the things we went through. And Ben was telling me the same thing was happening on his submarine. They'd come up the surface, and they all sit there, do a rotation, smoke a cigar on the top of the submarine. And it was just fascinating how it was so similar. Again, I was thinking, okay, we had original ideas, but there was nothing original because it was going on before me. It's probably going on before Ben. Is going on now. But the one thing that's grown is there was no such thing as cigar groups within the military, no clubs. After we started in 2012, we started noticing a lot of these clubs like the Taliban Cigar Club, and they all had chapters, 30, 40 chapters, 10 chapters, whatever it is. And every club had their own mission. Like we only have Army guys, or we only have NATO, allies. We only have all the branches, or only NCOs or officers. So they had their different cliques. But the fun thing about it is they were growing everywhere. And they gave us a lot of the credit for that, because we did give a lot of advice over the years. And we supported a lot of the club leadership, getting them cigars, where normally, and I would say 98% of the time, it's you put a request in, we turn around and send it to our military liaison, who is able to vet every person's request, meaning that we know that every APO is not always someone in the military or someone in the U.S. military. It could be an ally, it could be a contractor making $250,000 a year. And so we wanted to make sure that if Ash is donating a cigar to go to our deployed troops, it went to our deployed troops. Now, what that soldier did with it is his or hers to do whatever they wanted. They wanted to pass on to their interpreter, to their contractor, to an ally. That's their decision. And it was just fascinating how it just grew to that. Now, a lot of it, I think, was just timing with the social media starting out really big those days, with cigarette and snuff cessation, meaning the military is pushing our troops to quit snuff and cigarettes. And there's so many traditions around cigars that they really never touched that. So it's been very fun. There's been a lot of great stories come back, feedback from our recipients that, some of them are so outstanding that it would, quite frankly, embarrass me to even repeat because they just sound too fantastic to be believable. You see these commercials some days, like donate because everybody's dying in Somalia. We all need, $50 a month. Well, we never really wanted to be that organization. But there's been pretty neat stories that over the years. And you'll see a lot of great photos on our group on Facebook, a lot of great posts by the troops. That's the mission, is we want to take care of them. But we do more than just cigars. A lot of people don't realize. But the only thing we promise are cigars. So we do a lot of coffee. We do some video games. There's been a Cigar Press magazine every box since day one. Cigar Snob sometimes, Cigar Aficionado once in a while. Tobacco Business has been there a lot lately. Cigar Journals. We give them some good magazines. Cigar in the past was giving us all the refurbished cutters, lighters, and then just the regular person donating a cutter, lighter, hat. And if someone says, I want this to go to our troops, it goes to the troops. But if it's $100 lighter that's being donated and they said, take care of charity, you'll see us re-raffle it off, and that's going to be a bigger bang for the buck. But, if Ash wants that lighter to go to some individual in the military, then it randomly sent off to some lucky soldier, some lucky Navy, airmen and seamen. We do take care of all sick branches. We've actually sent out 3 packages now to Space Force. These were guys that were in the Air Force and they got transferred to Space Force that had deployment orders already in hand and went to Africa. So it is fun. It is fun saying we took care of Space Force because people's mindset is automatically thinking space.
Yeah.
We hadn't figured that one out yet.
That's where my mind immediately went was, and I'm sitting here thinking Spaceballs, the movie, with the helmet coming in and goes, "Where's my cigar?"
Right. So that was, that's the gist of it all. I mean, like I say, there were 7 of us that started it. We had no clue what we were doing, none whatsoever. I had the only background within nonprofits. I had helped start the Texas Ethics Council. That was just a ton of legal stuff. So this was a lot simpler, but at the same time, a lot more complicated. We didn't have the state of Texas supporting us. We had to figure out where to get all that stuff. We had to figure out what our overall mission was, how many cigars we actually were able to do. And so the first official meeting after we got our nonprofit status, we had to vote for positions. And I had told them I didn't want to run anything. I wanted to go hard and fast. I wanted to do it by the book. So I got 2 out of the 3 of my wishes. But I also understand why I got voted on as CEOs, because I was the only one retired at the time. And I was on medical for the military, getting very close to retirement. It was because I was some genius or, really smart about how to do business. It was just, I was the only one retired. So the first board meeting, I always tell this story almost every interview I do because I think it's always funny, is that I said we need a slightly impossible goal for the first year. I mean, that's how any organization should do something. If your goal is to have 1,000 followers, well, how long is it going to take to get those 1,000 followers? And then it should be slightly impossible because it pushes you. And we're all on Google Hangouts. I don't know if y'all remember Google Hangouts back
Yes.
then.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're all looking at each other. And no one's saying anything. So I just threw out a number. I said 800 cigars for the first year. We'll ship out to the troops. And I got cussed out. I got called names. I was like, how the hell? Where are we going to get the money? Where are we going to get the cigars? Where are we going to get the people who want the cigars? How are we going to, vet them, et cetera? And so I was like, I don't know. That's why it's called impossible goal. Well, believe it or not, the first month, January 2012, we shipped out 860. So we broke our 1-year goal in the first month. And we had a little over 92,000 cigars shipped out the first year. So
wow.
not saying we know what we're doing still, but we have a lot of talent on board now. Very proud of our volunteers. They are what makes the organization runs. The event coordinators are the heart and soul of the charity. And then we have some really brilliant individuals who donate their skill sets to the charity to make things work. So
Right.
been very, very honored and privileged. And then people like you guys who support us really keep the push within the cigar world to keep donating, because there's only so many times I can go up to you and say, hey brother, I need another $5 in a cigar. At some point you're going to say, I don't have it. And so it's, guys like you that really help out, and we start getting outliers. People are not really embedded to the social media of cigars, but love podcasts, love your podcast. And we're seeing a lot more of these individuals showing up and, requesting a volunteer or just how can I donate? And so very blessed to be part of this podcast.
As long as we're around, as long as Leaf and Grain Society is around, which I plan it to be around for a very long time, we will always support Cigars for Warriors. And in fact, I had come up with an idea, and I talked with Red about this, and I talked with other, the partners within Leaf and Grain Society, of an event we want to do for Cigars for Warriors at some point in time, and tie in what we do, because we're all about pairings.
Yeah.
And what the thought is an event at a shop like, possibly the Underground, have Cigars for Warriors there. You promoting, it's about you guys, and for every donation, say 5 cigars donation or 1 cigar donation, whatever that is donated, you guys give them a ticket, and then they come and bring that ticket to us, and we give them a cigar and a pairing. So it's like we'll have, maybe a setup of 5 different types of pairings, with wines and scotch and bourbons and what have you. But these are pairings that Leaf and Grain Society has put together. But the only way that they can get that specific pairing that we're doing is that they have to do a donation.
I like it. I think you could get a lot of those companies to donate products if you're going to promote them. I think a lot of cigar companies would easily donate 100 cigars or so for the pairing itself. And you could even do like the Smoking Shields. When they meet, they have to buy 2 cigars when they go to a shop, one to smoke and one to go in the box. So you can actually say, hey, okay, here guys, we want you to be part of this. We want you to donate 1 cigar to the charity or more, and you throw in 1 cigar into kitty. So that way you have an assortment of other cigars that everybody could try out. Just one of those ideas.
Oh, I love it. And that's what it's all about. It's all about coming up with creative ways to one is to make it fun, and to understand, and having like you on the show is to understand the story of it. Because one of the things that really hit me when we were at the Texas Cigar Roadshow charity for Cigars for Warriors, that I think it was in October, November last year.
Yeah, October.
And it was absolutely incredible seeing that big World War II bomber. I don't even know what, letters of, I want to say B-52. I'm not sure it was, but,
I think it was a B-52.
Yeah.
That beautiful beast of a machine come just posting in, and seeing everybody, like 200 people just all lined up along the sides. And we've all got our cameras up, and we're just videotaping it and seeing it, it all come up. But when you came in and you did your talk about, kind of your metrics, because you're very transparent about what you guys have done. And I think at that point in time, you said that up to that point in time, that you guys have donated 1.2 million cigars to the troops, to the warriors.
That sounds about right, because we broke 1.3, I believe the 1st of July this year. I think that's
wow.
Right. So we're over 1.3.
Wow, that is just,
That, yeah.
It blows me away. And I've been
Mhm.
involved in every cigar of it. It shocks me to this day. I mean, I can't even count past 100. So when you're talking about numbers like 1.3 million, that's just boggles my mind. And then
oh,
just
it does.
all the coffee and all the cutters, lighters, other types of swag that we've donated over the years. The unique cigars, everything from a Toscano, which you don't have to humidify, to a Avante that has that crazy flavors, to acids, to Liga Bravadas, to Fuente, to Perdomos. I mean, it's just been a phenomenal journey, I guess is the best way I can put it, because it's all volunteer life, but it's been a great journey. And for me, outside of the blessing of seeing our troops get taken care of, it's just meeting people like you guys. It's meeting people who just really don't give a damn what anybody thinks. They want to take care of the troops, and we're going to do it by God, however, whatever it takes. And those are the kind of people I really enjoy getting to know. So for me, a lot of people ask me all the time, well, what gets you motivated? Well, truthfully, I burn out all the time. But two things motivates me: is meeting and seeing friends, and meeting new folks, and meeting recipients. There's nothing like a recipient walking up, giving you a hug and telling you thank you, and telling you some crazy off the wall story that you would have never imagined in a million years. We that remotivates me. And typically, if anybody's eavesdropping on conversation, we typically get 2 or 3 new volunteers. They're just so blown away by some of the stories. So again, like I said, meeting you guys was always a privilege. Y'all have a great organization. You got, the other club is a great club, and I just really enjoyed meeting y'all guys.
Oh, thank you. We enjoyed meeting you too.
yeah.
That was, I think on that one was just to have the B-52 come up, and just come up, and the hangar was open. And then for you to explain Cigar for Warriors. I mean, I knew what it was, but I didn't know exactly what it all entails, because we are like, oh, this is for, these are going for our servicemen and women. And, and sometimes, even though I'm military brat, I didn't grow up when my dad was actually flying. He was flying during the Cold War. So I wasn't around at that time. But a lot of stuff he couldn't tell me about because he was flying reconnaissance. So a lot of it was hush hush. He couldn't say anything. But I mean, I knew that he never knew when he was going to take off. I knew that he didn't know when he was coming home. My brothers and sisters are older, so they kind of filled me in with that. And, so I have a little bit more of thought about that, is kind of like, and I don't think the common people really think about when our brothers and sisters are over there fighting, that they just can't run and go get a cigar or a cutter, and this is something that reminds them of home. It gives them a little bit of, a little bit of home, but it also, like you were saying, is that stress relief, because I know I smoke it. I look forward to Wednesdays, because already Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday has been, pretty stressful, but it's not the same stress that they're going under, and that they're able to do that. And I love the fact that you took off, you had that hour just as a human being that they could just talk to. They didn't have to do the title or any of that, that they could just like open up and free talk, because it is important that they have that, because they really don't have that outlet, and y'all are providing them with that outlet. And when I really understood that, that was just like, oh my gosh, I really love this organization. It's really powerful, because we all know, we all know someone who's in the military or who has served in the military.
I remember growing up, my uncle fought in a Vietnam War, and I was probably about 6 or 7 years old, and he'd come home from Vietnam. And the story that I remember so clearly was, I was just astonished by how much he ate when he got home. And mom had cooked pancakes, mom was a Southern girl. She cooked pancakes and what we call, sausage biscuits and gravy, shit on a shingle. She made bacon and eggs and that, and he had a stack, 7 pancakes, 20 pieces of bacon, sausage. And I was like, Uncle Walt, why are you eating so much? And he goes, because we didn't get this in Vietnam. And it just, to reiterate what Red says, to hear that from family, and then to see what you guys are doing, and I never was able to serve myself, what I was never able to get in, due to health reasons. So, but it's always been a big part of my soul, of who I am, and just the appreciation and admiration for everybody who puts their life on the line for us to be able to live in this country that we live in. And so your organization and everything that Cigars for Warriors does for our men and women out there to bring home to them is just, it's wonderful. And as long as I breathe, I'm going to support it.
Well, I appreciate it. Another key phrase I like, is we kind of been using a little bit more of late, is it's one of the only ways to create normalcy. The two biggest ways to make it feel normal again is either alcohol or tobacco. Let's face it. You can't have alcohol when you're employed. Do not order one. So and they don't like you. They can't say no, but they don't really like you dipping or having cigarettes. But now there's cigar clubs that they're supported. The rank supports the cigar clubs, even the big military, which is, typically they don't support anything that helps out the troops. They're more worried about their political careers. So, and now that I'm out of the military, I can happily say that. Yeah, there's just so many MREs you get. That's why when you meet guys who put in over 15 years in the Army or the Marines, we get fat real fast. So we just keep eating, thinking we're still doing all the same shit we did when we were in the service, and we're not. So people are like, why do all the Army guys get so fat afterwards? Because we keep eating the same amount of food, and it's always better. So.
But, and one thing that, I kind of like that you had brought up was, typically when we think military, it's normally the men and the cigars. But last year, I know that you said that the women, had increased with the cigars. So I was going to ask, has it increased even more, or how was that? And if you could share with our audience about that as well.
I don't have any specific numbers right now, but I do know pre-2019 was last time I really paid attention to it, to be honest. We had 8 months, we've had more female requests than males. Now, thinking about the ratio of men to women in the combat zone, you got to really put that in your mindset that that's a huge percentage of women smoking cigars, more than the men, actually. And a lot of people don't realize that. When I say that 8 months out of 10 years, like, that's not, what's the big deal about that? The big deal is the percentage of females in combat is not just huge. So when you have more females, when you have more female requests than males, that means a very high percentage. So and I'm very proud of that. I've always said it's just as much for the females as males. Absolutely. It's not always something they bring home, but definitely when they're deployed. And a lot of things I try to teach the industry guys is your number one growing clientele is the military. So it's that simple. In the United States, there is a very slight incline percentage of new cigar smokers. In the military, it's almost straight up because everybody's stopping cigarettes and snuff and chew. So everybody's, really grabbing hold of those cigars. So that's our new big clientele. And again, when you're deployed, it's, it's that one sense of normalcy. So one of the things that you were bringing up earlier, I think a lot of people, like when they first hear a speech like at the show we were at last year, the fundraiser, and is that when we bring it up, a lot of people don't realize how big the charity is. They have an assumption it's a mom and pop's program. It's just me and Robert doing all the work, and it's really not one. They don't. 1.3 million cigars just doesn't really react in their mind. They can't imagine we have a 11 person board of directors. That when you're a board of directors, not like a normal charity board of director. Normal charity board of director usually gets paid a lot of money, so that their name is associated with that charity. When you become on our board or one of the supervisors, that means you're going to put in a lot more hours than anybody else does. You are committing to putting more hours of your skill sets, et cetera. Where, event coordinator may put in 4 to 6 hours a month. Your typically board of directors typically put 4 to 6 hours every week. And then you got people like myself and Robert, a couple others that put in significantly more, RJ and Abigail, put in significantly more hours, 20 to 25 a week. And sometimes, 40 to 60 hours, depending on what we're doing. Mm-hmm. So it's the charity itself, it's significantly larger than most people really understand. The fact that we're 100% volunteer to this day still blows me away.
That was very shocking that you have, and I guess I never really thought about it until I actually went to, and I'm sorry to cut you off, to Lake Worth. And there was a volunteer and, I had kind of seen people with the Cigar for Warriors with the little pen that, y'all give away, and then y'all have y'all's box for the cigars and everything. So, how many volunteers y'all have? Because these volunteers go to the event, collect cigars, they tell people, they share, they give out information. And at first I thought, when I first saw them, I thought they were employed. And then I learned that they were volunteers, and they are religious about going to these events, and they're always there and they show up. So to me, that even meant more. I was more impressed that they're willing to give up their time to do this, because it's like every cigar event, I always see my friend from Cigar for Warriors in this area. So yes, how many people do y'all have?
Well, on any given day of the week, and you're talking about volunteer land, we have 100 active volunteers.
Wow.
Any day of the week, out of
That's
that
awesome.
100, 120, 150 volunteers, you probably have 20 that are really going. The thing is, it's a different 20 every day. It's never the same person. Big coordinators are, while it is the funnest position to do, because you get to know the reps, you get to know all the crew, you get to have a little bit of popularity, you get to know the shop owners a lot better. They are the heart and soul of the charity. They are what has kept us running, because a lot of people don't realize after May of 2016, when the deeming went into effect, all the manufacturers pretty much said no more donations, because there's one line out of this big, long Child Protection Act of 2009 that Obama did that says that tobacco companies could not donate products to charity, which to this day even didn't make any sense to me, because I can't imagine even Philip Morris donating to a children's charity. So it never made any sense. But nonetheless, we only had a few companies that said, forget that, we're going to keep donating. Now we have significantly more companies that have gotten back on board. But at that time, we probably had, I would say 95% of all the manufacturers donating, a minimum of 200 cigars a month, up to like Famous Smoke Cigar Shop that was doing 6,000 to 7,000 a month, Drew Estate that was doing 2,000, 2,500 a month, on top of, after every event, they just would throw all the extra cigars in our boxes. After all the trade
really
shows
cool.
and festival, they would give us all their extras. And over the years since 2016, we've had a lot of Congress get behind us. We've had a lot of the lobbyist programs finally get behind us. They always dismissed us. Now they realize when we have more congressional support than they do, that maybe there is something
then
about.
They're like, hey, let's get on.
And I've tried to explain to them is that as a lobbyist, the cigar industry is never going to have a real big ear, because there's not enough money. There's not enough, 2 to 3 million cigar smokers sounds like a lot, but reality, it's not. But so what do you have? You need a heartstring. You need that one thing that keep the politician, give that politician a reason to say yes, because otherwise they're only saying yes to tobacco, which is not really politically correct these days. And they finally realized that using the charity, they could get a lot more accomplished. And so slowly but surely, a lot of manufacturers coming back in. And then with the Synergy program, we've actually turned away manufacturers of late because we've had our original 6. Now, as after the last 6 person gets done, we'll see what happens, who wants to keep going, and then someone wants to step away, then we'll add a new company. So it's been real fun. It's been fascinating. Learned a lot. I went from the military straight into, as a first sergeant, you do this or this happens.
Yeah.
And the consequences are severe. To pretty please, can you get this? It's going to take you 10 minutes. For the next 6 months, could you get it done? And I had to learn how to be nice and smile a lot. And my wife, I think, is gratified because it gave me a reason to smile a lot more. So it's been fun. It's been good for me. I think it's good for our volunteers. Now, with full transparency, because I believe in that, is I do give 4 people a very small per diem once a month. It's just enough to buy them a steak dinner. I am not one of those people. And it's a way of saying thank you, a very small way of saying thank you, which any other company, they'd be getting, 35 to 60 grand a year. And they're, reality is they're still donating, even if I did stop the per diems. During the COVID, we actually had to stop the per diems because we had no money coming in. And so I try to be transparent about that as well. Like I said, it's just enough to say thank you, and keep them motivated too. So as far as that's it. We do a little bit of travel once in a while. It's usually a board of director if requested. No other option is we'll take care of typically about 70% of travel expenses.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it as far as where the money gets back into actually any volunteers' hands. We don't hire people within the organizations for it as far as when we buy something. We have once in a while, but we always have at least 3 other quotes. We have a very strong ethics policy, and we have a very strong checks and balance policies. And I say in plural. I try to every time, I'm a sneaky son of a bitch, so I'm always trying to think of ways. If I really wanted to cheat the program, how would I do it? Then figure out how do I beat that. And usually a lot of us military guys think that way anyway, especially if you're an NCO. You got E4s running around doing all sorts of crazy stuff. You got to figure out how to stop them from doing that. So, our checks and balances is one of the things that grows every year. We continuously, we're always changing policies or cleaning them up a little bit, checking out what works, what doesn't work. Trust me, I can tell you all the things that don't work. We've been blessed with a lot of things that have worked very well. Anyway, so I'm talking a lot. Am I missing any good questions?
Well, I was going to bring up that. So we've got a number of really good questions here.
Yes, we do.
So we've got 2 that kind of goes along the lines of what we're talking about right now. Steve Newman asks if you're going to be represented out at the Boutique Cigar Festival that's coming up this next weekend.
Yeah, we actually have 2 of our board of directors. Trey Boring, who's our senior vice chair, and Paul, which y'all all know Paul. He's out of y'all's, y'all's Metroplex down in Dallas Fort Worth, and Waxahachie, I think, is actually where he lives. Paul, and he's going. So and Paul's wife. Paul's wife always helps out when she can. She's not an official volunteer, and a lot of people don't realize that to become a volunteer, you still have to fill out an application. You still have to do an interview. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of volunteer organizations get a lot of title seekers. They just want to build that title for their business card and not actually do things. So we really work hard to make sure that doesn't happen. But yes, we are going to be represented. We started the first year. The boutique festival guys all promised that they would take care of CFW, significantly better than last year. So I'm looking forward to see how it goes. And let's face it, boutique cigars are fun. They're some of the best cigars in the industry. So I'm excited to see what happens.
That's what we're smoking now. Okay,
Yeah.
so to follow up with that, Albert asked the question, Albert Hernandez, which he's always been really good at asking questions on all of our shows. He said, ask how many shops is Cigars for Warriors in?
And I'm going to add to that, how can we find what shops they're in?
Oh, love that. Great.
Perfect. Actually, good 2 questions. I think we're around, I don't know how many we picked up the last trade show, or numbers of the trade show slowing up. I think we're around 580, maybe 600 even. Those numbers, just like volunteers, do go up and down because, let's face it, cigar shops sell, cigar shops get new managers, cigar shops get new staff. And when those turnovers happen, if they don't know who we are or they don't care about it, the program gets put aside. And it is until one of our supporters go in and maybe sees a box on the floor before we get contacted. And I give the shops one shot. You got to do the minimum standards. There is a minimum standard, and we feel very strongly about it. The reality is the cigar shops, it helps the cigar shops significantly more to have our program in there than it does for the charity not to be in there. So we're finally, once we hit that hurdle, it's nice to be in that position where we're doing them a better job than they are for us. And that's always a good way to do it. And we always thinking about the cigar shops. How can we, help make them money? In fact, every tobacco business issue, which is targeted to retailers, we have a Cigar for Warriors editorial, and I basically write, 3,000 to 5,000 words every issue. How do you CFW make money? And because we get a lot of people say, "Hey, we want you in the shop." I say, "Oh, this is how you make money." Well, that's not why we want it. We want to do the right thing. Well, why not be proud of that you made a lot of money off Cigars for Warriors? It's still America. We're still a capitalist country, at least currently. And, be proud that you made a lot of money. Because the reality is, if you're making a lot of money using our program, we are getting a lot of donations naturally. So it's not us being altruistic about it. It's just good business for us too. The better your shop's doing, the better your manufacturer's doing, the better your other companies doing, the better we do. And then to answer the second question is, we just got our new website put up. We're on phase 1. We're very proud of it. Still some things we need to tweak for phase 1 to get it very cleaned up. We start our beta testing for phase 2, hopefully in the next 3 months, 4 months. Right now, though, the big focus is for our donation centers to go to the website and claim their shop. It's already been put in our files, our CRM, which is the database, but we're not going to automatically give it to them. They're going to have to go to our website and request and make a claim to their account. This is going to help everybody out. This helps CFW significantly as far as like SEO, and it's going to give searches, Cigars Warriors comes up a lot more, and it gives those shops that are involved with this a lot more attention, a lot more people will be able to see them, get a lot more attention to them. We have, to this day, since day one, we probably on average go through about 1,500 clicks a day, which is not a lot, but I would say majority of them are either soldiers or people driving to another town. They want to see what's the nearest Cigars for Warriors shop. That's who I'm going to go smoke at first.
Yep.
And so that's going to be really enhanced. And then the second phases are creating for the volunteers and our supporters to have accounts. And that's all going to build up to phase 3, which is our incentive programs, which are pretty fun. We're still working on it. Have no idea how we're going to get it done, but our webmaster, who it's just another volunteer supports this, he's actually just keeping it running. We have an actual web builder who's volunteered his and his whole company's time doing this. We're very blessed because they're big time coders, but they're building it in a way where we're very proud of this. That the goal of it is to take away a lot of those steps, make a lot more automation, so our volunteers are not doing some tedious, and so if they're not having to do so many tedious steps, they're more likely to get it done. If that makes sense.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we're trying to get a lot more automation, a lot more fun, a lot more reasons to go to the website. When the calorie program gets involved, you'll be able to get points. And when you do points, you get ranked. When you get ranked, you get an option to either we go back and forth, either get in this specific store or you automatically get a certain item that's going to be donated by one of our companies. And it'll be a piece of swag that company is going to buy for send it to us, and they'll never be able to use it outside of our calorie program. We already have several manufacturers jump on board that fast, so we're very excited about that. But as you can imagine, coming up with the different tasks, different donations, it's a bigger nightmare than I ever imagined, trying to come up with a point system. But there is some fun to it. Steve Newman has actually helped me out with that part of it. He's one of the smartest guys I ever met in my life.
Lot of respect for Steve. I've been working with him through the Cigar Industry Professionals group, and I was so excited when I saw that he was volunteering for you guys. And I know that he's been really inside of the CIP. He's been really pushing and promoting and encouraging others to support you guys and to volunteer as well. But we got a couple of other questions here. I want to hit one. Gertie, who he's Yogi, is what we call him. He he has his own cigar company. His own coffee company called Infinity.
Oh, nice.
And his question is do you see that any of the warriors, the men and women, the soldiers out there, do they go to any particular type of blend of cigars? And then a kind of a follow-up question with that is another one from Bert, who says, kind of fits with that. Which boutique brands do you see that are supporting Cigars for Warriors, more so or not?
So the first question, and I'll add a little bit to it, was it's about coffee. From the coffee guy, I want to say is that we do get a lot of coffee donated. For full transparency, it's never been enough to have all our boxes every month to have coffee in it. It is one of my ultimate goals by the end of 20. Again, one of those slightly impossible goals, but a goal to have every box with at least 12 to 16 ounces of coffee in it. We do have one company that actually is part of the Synergy program where it's pretty neat. If you go to our website, you'll see 2 blends. Someone buys that blend. Yeah, we get a little bit of money, but so much more importantly is that same company is going to turn around and donate that same bag, that same blend, a whole nother bag to us. It puts your name on it, the guy that bought it, as a donor on the back of the bag, and it goes straight to our military. And so that's so much better than just the few dollars to make off each bag. It's that that's a big donation that coffee company's doing, and I think it's built in a way they just break even. They probably is at a loss at some point. But it's because of the love of the charity, and quite frankly, Trey Boring is one that really pushed it. They wanted to donate even more. That pushed it. Let's let you guys break even. We don't want anybody ever hurting financially. We'll take break even all day long. So, I think I answered the coffee question.
Well, what blend of cigars? I think it was more of like what blend of cigars. Yeah, because he was curious, like, what do you find? Because I know, if we go in and, let's say at the Underground, that's our home shop. So, we'll buy, and there's the ammo box that we can say, okay, can you put that in the ammo box? Is there one that's particular that they tend to gravitate more, or one that you would recommend? So
when
we're
we
just not getting them
when we
like the cigars that no one wants.
the first 2 years, we actually had a line where you could request a blend. We found out very quickly that was a bad idea, but during that 2 years, the majority was Avante, acid, stuff that had flavor to it, even some Tatianas. Because when you're thinking about some of those environments you're in, you're eating more dirt than you're eating anything. So anything with flavor is just phenomenal. And, let's face it, traditional cigar smokers a lot of times make fun of guys who smoke acids. But I always ask the question is, why bikers and military guys smoke acids? They don't really care what anybody thinks. They're going to smoke what they enjoy. But I can't get a really honest answer after that because, after the last 8 years, it could have changed. But during those years, it was that. We do still donate a ton of Toscano and Avante. They drop 30,000 cigars every time they donate. Those are great cigars because they can throw those cigars in a go bag. They don't need humidification. Like a lot of golfers smoke Toscanos because you don't need to have it in a humidor. You just throw it in a golf bag when you get a chance, you smoke a cigar. But Cigars International is donated almost every year donation cards, gift cards of $100 gift cards. So you give a young soldier $100 gift card, he's never been able to buy that cigar he always wanted to. I don't know, maybe a Sweet Jane, maybe a Liga Rivada, maybe a Fuente. And now they got opportunity to go there, Cigars International, and spend an extra $100 they didn't have to get that box they always dreamed of, or just buy a $100 box. So we've seen a lot more younger troops buying a lot nicer cigars from Cigars International. And it's been fun watching that trend. I get to see some of the notes on that. And it is a trend. You'll see it. And it's a lot of younger guys smoking. Because let's face it, when we're younger, and especially when we're at E4, E3, you don't have the kind of money to buy some of those cigars. So I don't know if that really got a lot of the meat of the answer, but boutique cigars always going to be a favorite because military guys, I would say this, are a lot more educated than they were in 2012 about cigars. This space, a lot of more people are more educated about cigars than they ever have, and it's all because of social media. That's all because of military cigar clubs. It's all because of cigar clubs on social media, or whether they're clubs out there, in the, like the Leaf. You got a lot of great communities out there that are educating. People are studying it. People like me who get bored on a drop of the hat realize you can study cigars for 20 years and never know enough.
Still not exactly.
Did I get the second question?
Yep. I think you did. I mean, I think naming off all of the different boutique brands, it would be, manufacturers would be hard to do, but
and you get guys who want the military guys who served like war fighters. They're always going to gravitate to a war fighter cigar, just because those guys were actual combat vets. I like the war fighters. Those guys, we actually talk shit more than anything. We found out we actually served at the same time in the same combat space. So we were in the same footstep because we realized that we knew some of the same names that were not in our military. We're not in our battalion. So it's pretty fascinating when you realize how small the world is. You got Southern Draw, who's always been a big supporter. You got a couple other
I was going to say
companies.
Southern Draw. He's a vet. He's a veteran.
Right. He's an Army vet. Army veteran during the Cold War. You got David Blanco, who's still reservist to this day. He's a captain in civil affairs, I believe now. Him and his dad still do a great company, and they donate a lot. But so a lot of times, they'll gravitate to the war fighters. But hopefully, people gravitate to the live to serve, which is our motto. I don't know if people realize the live to serve. It just really encompasses everything. It encompasses you guys, our supporters. It encompasses our manufacturers and our volunteers and our troops. We're all serving in one way or another, and it's a lifestyle. You're living to serve.
someone was asking what we are smoking, and so actually it's kind of funny because all three of us are smoking the Cigars for Warrior by I'm going to say it wrong because I always say it, and poor Jennifer Nicole is going to be like, Red, it's not that hard. But we are smoking that cigar for the Cigar for Warriors. And I am pairing one. I didn't have a beer, but closest thing I had is stout. And as I stated, that was for my dad because my dad was in the Air Force and he was in SACs, thus the shirt. I had to come and represent my dad.
My dad was served in the Air Force as well. And one of my favorite stories from him, and I've got a couple of other stories. My dad served in the Air Force. He did his 4 years, and then he got out, and he hitchhiked. He grew up in Arkansas, hitchhiked from Arkansas over to Nevada, because that's where he had to be for his boot camp. And he couldn't afford to drive across, or to get a ride, to whatever. So he had to hitchhike across the country to get there. And then the story that I love is that on one of their weekend leaves, they went out to the lake, wherever they were, boot camp was. And he got so bad sunburned that his cabin or his troops or whatever had to hide him in different areas so that way he wouldn't get in trouble from his sergeant for damaging government property from his sunburn. And that just blew my mind. But my favorite story, so my dad's dad, he was in the Army and he served during the World War II. And he's the only person I ever met that was born in the 1800s. He was born in 1895. And I remember sitting on his lap, and I'm about 6 or 7 years old, and he's telling a story during World War II, and he was the personal chef for General Eisenhower. And so he's deployed overseas during World War II. He's fighting, he's in combat, and then he comes back and he's cooking for Eisenhower. And telling us some of the stories about that. But it's funny. I don't think you can come and talk to really anybody that doesn't have, anybody that's alive that doesn't have somebody that's connected somehow, some way to somebody that has served for our country.
Well, and you think about a lot of the cigar people behind the industry, a lot of them are vets. Like the first one that comes to mind, Drunk Chicken. She's a vet.
She's a vet. Yes.
Like as you stated, David Blanco and withdrew with Southern Draw.
Blanco.
Blanco, and then Southern Draw, John with Southern Draw. And you sit there and you think about it. And I know that Karen, a lot of her reps are also vets as well.
Karen Murder.
And then, yes, and like Brian with Karen. And then that kind of, as I got my little number here, I know that Bill Wade is also a vet. And I know if you look at my Facebook page, you will see the beautiful piece that he made. And it's got this Cigar Warriors, and it's got all 6 branches on it. And then he also has a number that is just for Cigars for Warriors. And then he also has the military branches. Like, I have the Navy one, and I also have the Air Force one. So that's another thing I love about this community and the cigar is there's a lot of vets that are out there, and they support y'all, and it's beautiful to see them give back to y'all.
And here's a little plug for the number before you go on about that one, Storm. you can order, I believe you can order that the particular number that he did for you guys from your guys' website. You can order from his website as well. And I want to say a good portion of the proceeds, maybe 50% or more of the proceeds, are going directly towards Cigars for Warriors.
His number is part of our synergy program. To be part of the synergy program, it's 100% of his profits. He makes nothing off of it.
Wow.
Oh, that's
And it is absolutely gorgeous. And
yeah, and
I've had a lot of people, like, I just posted as my background because I was like, hey, I want to do something for Cigars for Warriors. And I had that picture because when he sent it, it was just absolutely gorgeous. And a lot of people are like, oh, my son's in the Navy and I was in the Army. So they've gotten, like, they want to order the number because it's got all 6 of them. So it's a special piece. Or like, my son's in this and I want to, smoke that because that's really badass. So it is just,
I always tell
like,
people,
it's beautiful.
I always tell people to buy a Cigar for Warriors and go buy your favorite branch. And then that way they're buying 2 of them.
There you go.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
So, because like I have the Cigars for Warriors. He gave me the Navy one because he's in the Navy. And then I said, well, I'm an Air Force brat. So I kind of need the Air Force, and they're handmade, beautiful quality. I mean, just absolutely gorgeous. So if you haven't checked them out, please do. We've talked about him and he makes amazing nevers that are just wonderful.
Yeah, him and RJ put together the deal, and it was very generous of him. I've known the guy for a long time, and he's already been generous to CFW. Always helps out whenever he can. So it's always great to do business with guys who've already volunteered their time with us over the years. And I always, like I said, I want companies to support us. I want them to actually come out ahead, and so company's going to grow. And for a lot of us, we get a kind of a kick out of, can say, 10 years from now, when this number company has dominated the world, that we had a small piece of where it is. We have a small piece of where, so to draw how big they've gotten, or Blanca or whatever through a state. So it's always, it's that extra incentive for us on a different level to think that. Just to, be able to think that 10 years from now, we had a small part of their growth. But yeah, then, like the coffee and the nub tools. And then we have other programs that we're working with, building partnerships. We have a program we're going to come out soon with Dream Seat. It's not finalized, so I can't talk about it, but they're the ones that make these amazing lounge chairs that you'll see in some of the bigger, nicer lounges around the United States, where they'll have a manufacturer logo imprinted on it. In this case, they'll have a CFW logo. A few other things are going on. We got our social media team run by Abigail. She's our supervisor. She's got a bunch of models she works with that are doing some pretty edgy photographs and having them put all these amazing prints and using them for auctions. And me, I've never had a lot of luck with auctions, but they're just kicking ass with auctions. David Roman that does Rick and Morty, the adult cartoon.
Yeah.
He's a big supporter of ours. We've had a couple of nice posters he's done. Got a lot of signatures put on it. In fact, he did a trade show he sat with us. We went and took his poster, and he asked to get all the manufacturers' signatures on it. So he did 11 of them, and he wanted one of them. That's why we did the odd number 11. The other 10 we auctioned off, and we think we got 4 left because the other 6 just went for a phenomenal amount of money. It's pretty crazy and wild that how many people actually know Rick and Morty.
Oh yeah.
Of course, you got Jesse Flores, always been a big supporter since 2012. He's done artwork for us. He did the we've seen the big airplane with the bombs dropping off. That's his artwork. Anyway, what's your next questions?
I was gonna say, what is your favorite cigar and dram to pair with?
Well, I'm always going to tell you Sweet Jane. Sweet Jane is what I've said since 2012, and it'll probably be until I'm done. A lot of it is because I love the owner, who she has the royalty rights. Is Von Boyd. She's been supporter of CFW. She was a supporter of CATS, which is my other organization I started before the charity. In fact, we have rules on there. On the very bottom, you'll see Vaughn Boyd. Miss Vaughn is exempt from all rules. And so Sweet Jane's always been a favorite. And it's got nice other cigars involved with it, the Fat Bottom Betty, the Leather Rose, more sizes now. In fact, the whole natural line that Drew Estate had has basically been discontinued to put more sizes of that line. Natural has always been one of my top favorites. I'll smoke an acid one day and I'll smoke a Liga Privada the next day. And I like smoking varieties. I tend to smoke stuff between $6 and $12 because I always say my palate's not good enough after $15. I'm just wasting my money. But the only exception to that is I love L40s. I've always been a Lancero whore. I love Lanceros.
Yes.
And my two favorite ones was from the Respect line of AKA, which is no longer around, and the L40s from Drew Estate's Liga Privada Unico series.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love the L40. And
Yeah, that's a good stick.
I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out because he's on the chat with us. He's in the chat room and he's on the Zoom call with us. But Zach, he's known as Cigar Traveler, part of Leaf and Gray, and he's the one that really helped us nail down, and coordinate the schedules, for us to be able to do this and be able to meet with you tonight. So big thank you to Cigar Traveler. He's also the one that does all of our shop stops as he's traveling around, and he'll go in and do a walkthrough of the cigar shop. Something that here in Leaf and Grain we've always been big on is supporting our brick and mortars and supporting our boutique brands, our micro distilleries, our micro brews, across, the mom and pops that get out there and want to do something and grow, and having to still, not compete, but kind of make their name known against the big names that are out there. And so I really appreciate what he's doing for us in Leaf and Grain, and I really appreciate him being kind of that go-to between on being able to coordinate the schedule with you. So I had to give a shout out to him.
Well, and Zach is just a great guy, period. I mean, whether you ever dealt with him online or in person, he's the same guy. If you ever get a chance to sit down with him and just visit, he definitely has a lot better stories than I do. So
he's got a good story for sure. We love him. He's very dear to our hearts through and through. So one of the questions that we always ask, and this isn't to end the show because I think we've got a lot of conversation coming up, but I'm curious as to what you see coming up in the latter part of 2022 for Cigar for Warriors and coming into 2023. What is your vision? What do you want to see really happen from this?
Well, in a perfect world, we would have phase 3 done with the website, which I don't think it's going to be possible by the end of 2022, but in a beautiful world, it would. All 6 of our cigars pushed out. We're on number 3, which is with Ventura, and it's the Slaughterhouse, a totally separate blend. It's our economic cigar. The new blend to me is significantly better than the old blend, and it's still the same price. The logo on the Slaughterhouse, we worked on it for probably 5 months. A great company to work with, probably the most professional company I've ever worked with. Of course, they're owned by Cretech, but the Slaughterhouse logo alone, I bought extra bundles just because I love the logo. It's just so kick-ass. I like to see all the other ones come, finish out. We get Oscar. He's going to do a CFW by Oscar cigar. It's going to have some pretty interesting marketing involved with it. We got Cavalier, which I'm very excited. The problem is right now,
exciting.
a lot of the tobacco still short supplies because, you know, right now we're in the golden age part 2 of cigars. So, and then, you know, everybody's smoking so much more than they were because of the pandemic. And the pandemic's also cutting down the amount of people working. So your label companies may have, you know, half your staff gone. Your box companies may have 3/4 staff. So a lot of these little tiny details that were never a big deal before that are now making all the, you know, what's causing all the delays. But Cavalier and then the 6th company I can't name yet. We're still formalizing it, but pretty excited about it when it comes through. People always ask me, why isn't Drew Estate doing it? Just because they were our first supporters. They have continued supporters over the years. Basically, the why is Jonathan Drew said, I'd rather give y'all $50,000 a year and not mess with selling stuff. So, you know, I'm not going to say no to that ever. They do so much for us; it's unbelievable. That, you know, I get asked that almost daily. That's the reason why it's very simple. But yeah, I like to see all the synergy programs, projects take off. We got a CBG hopefully coming out in the next 12 months, and possibly another coffee company. I would love to see a bag of coffee in every box by the end of 2022, but I don't see that being realistic. But it is as you said, in a perfect world. Love to see our social media really in sync. It's social media, you're constantly having to change things and move things, and it's our guys are amazing, but it's sometimes a nightmare, as you can imagine.
Oh yeah.
We have a new podcast, which I hope you guys get on it sometime, and vice versa. It's the guys with Dreamer Cigars. They are hosting our podcast. You'll see they'll do 1 or 2 shows a month that's completely different, and then they'll do a Cigars for Warriors show, one or two a month. So we're very excited about that. It's something I always wanted, but quite frankly, I didn't have the time to do it. And then the capabilities, and y'all know all the work that goes behind it. We're very excited about it. They are very excited about working with other podcast guys like you. So I'm hoping to see that take off. And like I said, I'm hoping that the peripherals around it really supports, other podcasts, get y'all more viewers, because that just helps everybody.
Right.
I'm very, very much about everybody growing together.
Well, we're
and then lastly is in a perfect world, we triple the amount of volunteers we have.
All right, guys, you heard it. You heard it here, right here from the man himself, of what he wants to do and what he wants to accomplish, and it's going to take all of us to help him see that accomplished. So let's use our networks to help them grow, and then by product of that, we'll grow as well. So I love that. I love that. That's the direction that you go, because I mean we're all one family. We're all one team here, and we're all, through that, supporting an amazing cause of all of our troops and letting them know that we love them and support them, regardless of what media says. We love you and we support you.
I would say that's probably the last thing I would want to say to really people listening is that, sometimes I get asked, sometimes I bring it up, is that I have one of my personal missions, not a per se mission on our within our company, is that by us being out there, it reminds people that we still have troops out there. When Afghanistan was breaking down, everybody kept saying, what are y'all going to do now? Well, we never had a majority of our boxes going to Afghanistan anyway. We still had 32,000 troops at the time that there was 0 in Afghanistan, still 32,000 troops in the Middle East alone. And since then, we've deployed over 70,000 new troops in NATO countries, not outside of Europe, meaning outside of England, France, Spain, where I'm sorry if you're deployed there, you're not getting a cigar from us. So, but some of the other poorer countries of NATO origins. So our troop counts is way out there. People have no idea. So I'm hoping every time you see our box, it reminds us we do have troops out there. We do have men and women putting their lives on the line. We have Africa missions still going. We have Bosnia, Kosovo. All those are still going. Central American missions. And so I really, that's my personal mission. It's just remind people, sorry, Kim Kardashian show's over, but the troops are still out there. And it's easy to get locked up in your own world, locked up in your favorite TV show, whatever it is. Get political party, get really focused on when people just forget about that we do have our men and women putting their lives on the line still to this day. And it's not a handful. It's I would be surprised if I'm lying, over 120,000 troops deployed worldwide right now. That's a lot of troops.
That is.
And I think that you bring that up. A good point is because a lot of times, because they were pulled out, that people don't think about the other countries that they're still defending. There's still their presence there because it wasn't really talked about. So, this is where I'm going to encourage our viewers, our listeners, everybody, do what you can do, because there are still people that are out there. And think about in your own cigar groups that you are a part of Leaf and Grain, because we have several vets and people that still serve in Leaf and Grain. So, just think about those men and women who are out there still serving, and, they're out there and they're away from their families. It's kind of like when you bring that up, it's, one thing about me being in education is like, you ask what their parents do. And at one of the schools that I'm at, it is amazing about how many parents are still active in the military and their parents aren't home, or they're gone for a couple years and they get to come home just briefly, or they haven't seen them like in a year. So, and then when they get to come home, usually they want to surprise them at school. So we get to see the beautiful, happy stories from that part of education where they were like, can we surprise our kid at school? And so please, 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 I'm going to ask, help donate, do what you can. And you brought up one thing is like cigar, like cutters and lighters and things like that. I've never thought about donating because I have several of them, but I've never thought about like, oh, let me donate this because someone like a serviceman or woman might need it.
Perfectly said.
Outside of cigars, and we talked about coffee, what would you say are some of the biggest requests that you get?
We don't get a lot of requests per se. They'll send us once in a while. I'll get someone that will go to contact us on the website, and we'll get an email. Hey, what are the chances we get an energy drink? What are the chances we get some vape pens? But typically when I hear a request, it's face-to-face from guys and gals. So we try to do that. We have hopefully, knock on wood, it's going to finally go through and work on it for over a year with a company that the founder is a really famous military guy. And I say famous, he's like the Kim Kardashian on Instagram, but the male guy. And he was in the Navy at one point, and he has a lot of products, from very expensive energy drinks to some vapes and some other stuff that once it goes through, they're going to be in the box. The silver lining, a lot of times I like to say from the deeming, is we had to cut the amount of cigars going out. We were doing, depending on how flush we were, anywhere from 60 to 70 cigars every box before the deeming. And now it's anywhere between 20 and 40 cigars. Again, depending on our numbers, what we have. So we have more room to add stuff. And we have just enough room to add, one of the larger energy drinks and a few hand pens of vapes and stuff like that. So those are requested, and it's something that's being, knock on wood, worked on. That company's actually having to deal with stuff way outside my knowledge, but it's It still looks like it's shaping up. The request, the only thing I would say is swag from their favorite manufacturer, or some high-end cigar, Opus X box, or something outside the norm that you would be able to send. But I would say the norm is what a lot of guys want when they're deployed. They love their energy drinks, they love their vapes. Outside of that's pretty much it. Coat, you said a cutter, some lighters, something original. If it's small enough, we'll ship it. We're very proud of that. Pipes, something we don't talk about a lot.
Pipes.
We send pipes. We send pipe tobacco. We have a lot of pipe tobacco. We don't have too many pipes that get deployed or get sent to us. I'd say an average of maybe 10 a month. But it's nice to get to send those. There's a lot of pipe smokers still out there in the military.
And it's funny because my dad, he didn't smoke cigars in the military. He was a pipe smoker. So every Veterans Day, I smoke a pipe in honor of my dad. And, it's occasionally I smoke a pipe, but on November the 11th, I'm always smoking a pipe. And it's just kind of, my way of honoring my dad. And I do want to brag about my dad real quick if I can. It is really cool. If you are ever up in Ohio and you go to the National Air Force Museum, I don't know if you've ever been, if you go to the Cold War section, his airplane, the one that he flew, is actually in the Air Force Museum. And he was the only pilot. So
Nice.
That part is really cool. It is the, let's see if I can get it right. It's the RB 47H, because he did fly reconnaissance. So, and it's the Stratojet, and it has a little bit of the history about it. But that is something that was really important to me. And I took my daughters up there to go see it. And my dad had just had a stroke earlier that year, and he wasn't really able to move about. And he was like, "I'm sorry, I can't fly up there." And I was like, "No, Dad, just tell me where the plane is. I want to go see it," because it was entered in 1995, 96, and I didn't get to go see it. And so I was able to go. And then my brother, who lives up in Ohio, and he goes, "Hey, are you coming by the house?" He's like, "What time are you coming by the house?" And I was like, "Oh, I just got in town. I'm parking my travel trailer. I'll be there in about an hour." And he goes, or I said, in like 30 minutes. And he goes, "Well, I'm not there, so you need to give me about like another 30 minutes. Well, I knock on my brother's door, and my dad answered.
Oh, wow.
And my dad went to the museum. He was struggling walking to the airplane, but we sat underneath his plane for about 3 to 4 hours. And, granted, he flew reconnaissance, so a lot of the things he can't tell us. And if you go and look at his documents, it's got that black Sharpie through it, both sides. You can't look at it. And his documents won't be released until my son is 80. So
They should be released on a 20-year cycle.
On a 20-year cycle. So
to do a release of information act
on that.
And submit it. It should.
Oh shoot.
Get it.
So then I might have to go back and check that out. But he sat there and he told us, and it was really cool when they were doing the tours. One of the guys was talking, and he goes, "I'm the only guy who flew this plane. This is my plane." So of course, then other people started asking questions. So that is one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had with my dad. And cool. He served for 20 years, and he actually was a recruiter to get minorities in, because this is back in the 50s and 60s when they didn't have, civil rights was coming in and all that stuff. So he was one of the first recruiters and to get minorities into the Air Force. So that is one thing that, my dad's done a lot of amazing things, but that is something that that's always going to be a piece of our history. And for that to be in the museum is just a beautiful thing, and it's a beautiful memory.
It really is, really is.
yeah, those memories will last you a lifetime. That's what's neat about it. You know, I would say you're right that most Americans have somewhere in their family someone that served. If you have multiple people in the family, it makes it even more interesting. I got a close friend of mine, and they have 4 sons and a daughter, and all 4 sons went to a different branch. And then the daughter decided to go to the Peace Corps. So, and I come in, none of them went in the Army. So I come in for dinner or something. It's a shit fest talking all night long. And it's really fun. If you ever get around a bunch of military folks, you'll think there's going to be a fight all of a sudden. It's not. It's just a bunch of us talking trash. In fact, we had one of our volunteers, Aaron Taylor, who's a Marine. When we're around each other, typically no one else is around. We're just talking trash. We were doing a big event, and we were staying in Miss Vaughn's house down in Deadwood, South Dakota. And we were talking a lot of trash early one morning. And Richard DeFay, who part of the Cigars for Warriors, finds Miss Vaughn and says, "I think they're going to fight." And she's like, "Who?" "Well, Storm and Aaron." It's just, "Nah, don't worry about it." They're like that 24/7. So it's always fun to get around other vets because my language gets really, really bad. Then I have to clean it up when I get around the normal public and be real nice. But if you ever see us as war fighters, we'll typically find a corner somewhere away from everybody and just trash talk. Because even within the same branches, like in the Army, we talk trash against each other. So that's one of the things I've always enjoyed is that, and it's just the camaraderie. And the reason I bring all that up is that a lot of vets like myself looked for something that we can continue doing that had that brotherhood still. And I found that doing the charity, that it is the closest thing I've found doing it. With the Hireman Solomon, I finally got into the Masons, and that's been fun. It's been interesting. But even with that brotherhood, with what we've had with Cigars for Warriors, I found that I'm even closer to a lot more people than I ever dreamed of. And it has brought that community of like-mindedness that, I was missing. There's a lot of vets out there that are missing it right now. So if you're ever interested, it's a good place to sign up as a volunteer. And just because you're not in the military doesn't mean you can't sign up. We love our non-vets. There's more than one way to serve. And you don't even have to be a cigar smoker. We've had 2 people on the board of directors over the years that didn't smoke cigars. They just love the troops so much. And that probably brings up one of my last stories is that, someone always asks, what's the most interesting letter you ever got? And I got one from my mom one time. And it was handwritten, and it starts out with, basically, I hate all things to do with tobacco. I hate cigarette snuff. I hate all of it. It's just going on and on about the evils of tobacco. And then there's a big but. My son, every time I talk to him, he's deployed in Iraq, never sounded very excited. I was always worried. And you got your box of cigars. And for the last 4 calls, that's all he's talked about. Continue with your mission. It obviously means a lot to the troops. Here's $2,000 and keep up the good work. So for someone who despised everything to do with tobacco, saw the mission for what the mission was. And the mission isn't tobacco. It's that moment of peace, that moment of normality, that way of doing a crisis management briefing even. If you know a crisis management briefing is basically sitting in a room, typically with someone leading the talks, but getting out what's going on in your head, what's going on physically, emotionally, all that after a major crisis, hostage negotiation to death. And for us in the military, you don't typically want to sit around and say that because everybody's going to shut down fast. So it's a nice way of opening everybody up. So there's a million reasons. Again, it isn't something we pre-planned. It was, honest to God's sake, it was just us saying thank you. And it's been really neat how much it's grown and what it means to different people, different backgrounds, different lifestyles, different race, different male or sex, female. everything. It's always different. It means something a little bit different to everybody. And that's something I've really been very, very fascinated about.
I say this every single show. Every single show. I might as well coin the phrase.
Yes, you need to.
Cigars are the great equalizer. It's the great equalizer, and you brought up that point. I mean, it doesn't matter anything else. You don't have to like tobacco, and we have a lot of people that have come to some of our bottle night events that we hold at the Underground Cigar Shop that don't smoke cigars.
Mm-hmm. They don't.
But they enjoy whiskey, or there's people that don't enjoy whiskey, but they enjoy cigars, and they come to these events with us because of what this brings. And this brings about so many of us need, and so many of us, so many people are lacking, is that sense of community, that sense of family. And that's why I say this is the great equalizer.
And I kind of wanted to bring that because you were talking about like the camaraderie of different branches. Like, for example, I was at the Cigar Lounge, and Brian McGee was there, and he's a Marine. Paul with Oliva, he's an Air Force. And, they were giving each other a hard time. And I mean, I've even had some people, and I do want to kind of say this out here is, as we said, that Burt B. Smokin does our graphics, and someone was like, hey, can y'all please redo the graphics, and you didn't have this branch on here. We recognize every single branch, and we are so appreciative of those branches. We are so thankful for the Coast Guards. We are thankful for the space, and now I can't think of the correct term of that branch. And one of my friends is actually with the space branch on that one.
Space
Air
Force.
And thank you, Space Force. And that's such a cool name too. But it's just kind of, we may not put those on the forefront, but they are part of the branch. And it's just fun because someone was like, why didn't you do the Marine song? And I'm like, well, I couldn't find the song that was eaten about crayons. There was no song that says eat crayons. So it's just fun to see a bunch of vets get together in a cigar lounge and just give each other hell about why their branch is better than the other branch, or y'all are wussies. Y'all, you fly above while we're on the ground fighting. And it's all fun and games, but y'all have this beautiful brotherhood that, as someone who didn't serve, I didn't go through what y'all went through. I didn't go through the boot camp. I didn't hear, I've only heard stories from friends and all of that. But I think it's like whenever y'all have that camaraderie, and then you have something that brings you even closer together with the cigars, it's really neat. And you don't realize how much some of these guys really need it in the cigar community for when they come back. Because when they come back when they come back home after they've been gone for a while, it's a huge adjustment for them. And I think that, sadly, is we don't do enough for that adjustment. And it really kind of breaks my heart. And we've talked about this. We talked about this with Desiree with Drunk Chicken. It's about how when people come back from serving and they have to make those adjustments and what they saw and what they experienced, and it's hard for them to go and sleep on that bed. And I think it's kind of like, at events and stuff, it's really neat to hear some of those letters that y'all have talked about and some of the volunteers have shared, because I think that's another thing that we forget. And I think that your organization helps that out as well.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. It means a lot. I've noticed over the last year and a half, there's starting to be the trend again of negativity toward military coming back from deployments. We're all crazy. We're all on PTSD. We're all beating our spouses, all sorts of, ignorant issues. So, it's one of my things also to remind people that while someone may have PTSD or PTS, whatever flavor it is, it does not take away from them being able to be in public, being able to do certain things or anything. Don't put that, that stigma on our troops, and it scares me when I start to see a lot of that coming out more and more. And I'm not a political person. It's about as straight up as I am. I'm a libertarian. That's about all I can tell you as far as my politics. If it isn't, if you aren't hurting somebody, it's absolutely none of my damn business what you do. So, but I do believe we should be supporting our, first responders and our military. Are you going to have bad eggs? Yes. But do you have the least amount of bad eggs in the military and the police and fire departments? Absolutely. And I always like using this example to really get people to understand is just take 100 women who love Tupperware. They're all stay-at-home moms. You're going to have 20% bad eggs.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to have 20 women who just, and that's minimum. But you take 100 folks in the military, men and women, take 100 folks in police force, fire department. You're going to have one or two tops, if that, out of 100. And I don't think people realize that difference. Now, given, when one of us screws up, it typically makes news. There's so much higher expectations, but the stigma that I'm seeing in the public, that's what concerns me. So I'm very proud of us being able to be out there, and I love the cigar community because, as you said before, it doesn't matter what political party you are, it doesn't matter what race, what sex, what religion you are, it's all about the belief, and it's a great equalizer. It doesn't matter about your economics, and I love that part. I've met so many neat people that are nothing at all remotely like me, but they're just fun to be around. Absolutely disagree with everything politically they think, but still really enjoy being with them. You're talking about how we talk trash at the trade show. We actually use it as an example. Almost, we built a really nice booth. We do a 30 by 30 and a 20 by at PCA and a 20 by 20 at TPE, and they're donated, which is very generous of these trade shows. But we built a part of it, about half of it's a big tent that you would see when we deploy, all camo covered, camo netting. And inside we put a bunch of the Walmart camp chairs, which when you're deployed, we all go to Walmart and buy us a cheap Walmart chair, camping chair, and we use it till it falls apart. Well, inside we put a tree stump for the Marines and a box of crayons, then regular for the Navy and Army. And then we put a big fluffy one with that can lean back with the feet up and everything, cup holders for the Air Force guys.
I was gonna say that's the Air Force guys right there with those luxurious.
and you'll see at the trade shows all the guys are vets. They just gravitate to our little tent, and it was really really fun. A lot of our podcasts and other media come in there. They don't even interview. They just sit down and turn their mic on and record everything we're saying. And that, it's been great for me. It's been great for other vets just to get those exposures. Y'all said it perfectly. It's a great equalizer, but it's also a very welcoming environment.
It is.
And if for the guys who know cigars, the guys that don't know anything about cigars, it's still a welcoming environment.
It very much is, and that's why I like the phrase. It's a great equalizer because it doesn't matter your political preference, your religious preference, your whatever stance it is that you happen to follow on personally. All that is left at the door when it comes time to cigars, because we're all human beings, have specific needs, have specific desires, specific wants for our own personal selves, and the core of that is companionship on that. And I want to give a shout out, and sorry, Red, I want to give
go ahead
to somebody else, and this is my ex-wife, because what she does is she's a licensed professional counselor, but her heart has always been around working with our veterans. And so her particular position is that she's on the front line of the crisis hotline for our veterans and our military and our first responders, so that they call up her hotline, and she's one of those ones that talks to them and talks them down from the travesty that their mindset is, I've got to do this, you know, without going into details. And I don't know any of the stories, you know, because, you know, we don't talk about that. She can't talk about that for
Right.
you know, privacy reasons, but I know what she does. And I'm so thankful that there's people like her that is out there to support our veterans in, you know, if they have PTSD, as what you said, whatever it is, to just be able to listen to them, because that's what people want, is to be able to say, hey, I'm going through a hard time right now. I just need somebody to listen to me, to be able to understand maybe a little bit of about what I'm feeling at this particular moment in time, and hear me, so that way I don't continue on with whatever plan it was that I was thinking about doing.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. Something I don't think I've ever really talked about on any of the podcasts, but I think it's the right flavor on this one. Typically 2 to 3 times a year, I get asked to do a speech at a military unit, whether it's in the year Christmas party or whatever, coming home from a unit or a unit's about to leave. And I like to bring cigars, always my personal ones. And part of the speech, I won't bore you details, but basically the biggest part of it is when you're experiencing the demons, grab a cigar. Don't have to smoke it, just grab it. If you don't have one, come up here and grab one of mine. And of course, everybody comes up and grabs at least one. But the idea is just create a pause. And I'm a firm believer in creating that pause. It's something I've taught myself, as far as, you know, anger, you know, language. You've had to, when you run a charity, that you're now in the public eye. You can't, you know, say the things you want to say. You can't just go off the handle. You can't, you know, use bad language, etc. And it's taught me to, you know, really think in a different way. But, you know, it gives you a pause. For me, when I smoke a cigar, when I really want to snap at somebody, I take another puff, and then I decide if it's, you know, righteous or not. And I tell the guys, the men and women of these units, that's one of the things I always tell them is take a pause. You know, I don't care if it's 10 seconds or just a pause. Grab a cigar, light it up, don't light it up. Just grab it, hold it in your hand, and just take that pause. Whether you're talking about, you know, where we're talking about, from anything from suicide to just, you know, going off on your spouse. And I truly believe it makes a difference. And I don't know how many people follow the advice or not, but, you know, it pretty much in line with what y'all are saying. I think it should be in line with most people, especially first responders. But, you know, moms, I think they got PTSD just for raising kids. I don't know how moms do. I'd have lost my mind being a mom. So there's a place for it everywhere. And I'm grateful that y'all do bring it out. I'm grateful of y'all's love for the troops. You know, all I can ask is keep going. A couple of things that I haven't mentioned, I just throw it out there, is that we also have a scholarship program. It's very small, but every year it gets a little bit bigger. We do is kids that are JROTC, high school JROTC, if they commit to going to college and to ROTC and want to be in the military, and their commandant recommends it, then we give them a small scholarship, typically $500 to $1,000, depending on what we got. And we typically do 5 kids. We also, we call the Boen Edmonson Award. And then usually once a year, from a unit that has a poor family readiness group, that, you know, these people are supposed to be the spouses, you know, creating some kind of fun space when the spouses come home from a deployment, create an information hub. what are our spouses going through while they're deployed. Some units don't have very good ones. And so some units don't even have an end of the year gathering, end of the year party.
Oh,
And so
wow.
we'll sponsor some of those parties. And I don't mean a lot of money. The top we've ever done is 1,500. But you know, 1,500 doesn't sound like a lot of money, but you're amazing if you're conservative enough how nice of a party you can put together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And
So you know,
that's really cool. I didn't know y'all did that because
sure.
I know, you know, just thinking of in the education sense, there's both like the high schools that are in my community, they have that. And a lot of them go into the military. So that is really cool that y'all do that. And also for the party, I love that. That is just, you know, bringing people together for a joyous occasion and welcoming home. That is really cool.
we don't highlight it just because we never know what we're going to have financially in the bank. We have bylaws that we are required to have a certain amount of money always in our accounts. Basically, we have to make sure we can operate for 6 months if, you know, the drought from hell happens. I don't know, like a 3-year pandemic. So, and you know, let's face it, and if it's really well known that we're going to, you know, take care of a unit or two at the end of the year, we're going to have 50 units requested. Right now, typically the ones I know that I've talked at, I'll get a phone call once in a while and we'll try to figure out how we can support it. And then maybe we'll do within our board of directors, we'll do a community collect 60, 70 cigars and send it. We don't like to do donated cigars because there's an expectation from a donor that these are going to men and women that are deployed.
Right.
And so we typically do it out of our own pocket. I have authorized it a few times. Wounded Warriors, I'm not a big fan of the charity, the program though within the military. I am a big fan of. We get invited to that sometimes. With, you know, Shorty Rossi and myself will go to a unit. We'll go visit the wounded vets. We'll give them cigars. Mainly, you know, we like doing it too when Wounded Warriors projects there because they hate us being there. So that's always a nice thing to do. And you know, they go out there and take a picture of all these wounded vets smoking a cigar. You know, I do the terminally ill ward. That's always fun. Get berated by all the nurses for having a bunch of guys smoke a cigar. They're terminally ill. In the day, though, they're freaking terminally ill. You know? And I talk trash to them all, and even the active duty, you know, the NCOs that are in charge of these guys look at me like I've lost my mind. But you know, at the end of the day, they see that these guys are actually smiling. Now, I was in a hospital for 3 years, and the last thing a guy wants is more pity while they're in the hospital. So
Right.
I come in there talking trash.
Exactly.
And, you know, guys got 2 weeks to live and asking them why they're in bed laying around. So there's a lot of facets about the charity we do. We don't really highlight it. We don't really promote it. One, it sounds very self-promoting. And it's not always available to us to be able to do some of these things. But we've been pretty consistent about the scholarship the last 7 years. And we've probably done 4 years of the parties and other different environments where we donated cigars. But
Well,
I am proud of that.
We've got about 10 minutes left, and we have one last question, and it's a good question to bring this home on, you know, because we are the Twisted Pair, and we are about pairings. So we've, you know, Storm, we thank you. Glenn Levitt 12, love it, one of my all-time favorites. Let's kind of go around here and talk about our pairings and what we think about our particular pairings with the Cigar for Warriors particular blend that was put out that all three of us were smoking. Out by Hiram and Solomon Cigars, and how our pairings were. So
I'm telling you, anybody who's listening or will listen to this later, you're going to think we all got together and planned this.
And we didn't.
Straight up, was not meant to all good. We have 3 cigars. And so you could say, well, there's a mindset, you're going to support the charity, you're going to smoke the cigars. But there are 3 cigars out there. And technically there's 5 because we've had 2 other ones in the years past. We had a Southern Draw about 3-4 years ago,
Mhm.
and then we had a Miami Cigars did one for us by Viva.
Mhm.
But these are actually part of the Synergy program where 100% of money goes back to troops. But again, I just think it's all three of us chose the same cigar. I think it's pretty damn cool.
It is.
Well, it's great minds. We're just brilliant people. I'm just going to put it for that. We're just brilliant. But we
So-
Or
all
we're
do
just
different
all
drinks.
missing brain cells.
Well, you two might be. No, I'm just kidding.
I know I am.
Hey, I resemble that remark. So Storm, tell us about your pairing and how how the pairing go with you.
Well, I am not a great reviewer. In the early days when Katz was the big cigar community, because we were the first ones to bring women in, we were the first ones that supported all brands. Because when we started, all the cigar communities were all about a brand or a retail shop. None of them wanted women in it, which was very bizarre to me. But so companies would send me cigars asking me to do reviews. Well, I can't taste, whether this came from it tastes like cardboard from 1960 from a cow eating on a grass field in Connecticut, and he was rare, cooked very rare, and I don't taste all that. So I'm not a good reviewer. So I always say, well, I got 2 reviews. It's a great cigar or it's a good cigar. If it's a good cigar, it means I just don't really like it, but it's selling a lot, so it must be a good cigar. So I would say for mine, I chose Glenlivet 12. I haven't paired these before. I like iced tea a lot of times when I smoke my cigars. And this has been a great offset where the cigar is very smooth, not a lot of up and downs. The Glenlivet always to me has a lot of up and downs. And it's been a nice contrast.
Very good.
Very good.
All right, well,
I went with my stout, Temper Stout, which is, the coffee notes. And we know that this is a San Andreas wrapper. So it's kind of like I knew it was going to be extremely complimentary of each other. It went nice both ways with it. It was enjoyable from the cigar to the drink and from the drink to the cigar. And it really brought out and I'm going to be honest, because we talk about whenever we're pairing, sometimes when you're sitting there and you're doing a pairing, you're sitting here thinking, but I was enjoying the conversation and hearing about Cigar for Warriors. So I didn't really take like my notes that I normally do whenever we do the show. Right. So I'm going to say I'm guilty for that, but it was just one of those things that, it was beautiful conversation, beautiful drink, beautiful cigar. And it didn't make me want to say, ooh, I don't want to smoke this cigar, or, ooh, I don't want to drink this. So it went well, very well, and very nice. So I will say that.
I think you said it absolutely perfect of what our desires were for this cigar, is to be perfect in a big conversation with people, having a room full of folks or 3 or 4 folks, not having to think about it, you just having a great, smooth cigar. Where the Caldwell cigar, it's just the opposite. The Mad Mofo is just like it says. It's all over the place. It's very, very complicated. It's from the first quarter is completely different from the last quarter. It's a fun cigar, but you don't want to sit there and want to do it in front of 20 people. You're not going to get a lot out of it. So I think I like the way you said it. Very well done.
Thank you.
I did pick up on a couple of notes on the cigar. Picked up some nice chocolatey notes, which is typical from a San Andreas. Definitely picked up on some pepper notes. What's interesting is that we all came with the same cigar, but we all came with very different drinks.
Different drinks.
We had a Speyside Scotch with the Glenlivet, and one of the most well-known Speyside Scotches there are. A lot of floral and a lot of fruit forward notes in it. You had a stout, which has a lot of coffee notes, has some good chocolate notes in it. And I came with a wheated bourbon, one of the most well-known wheated bourbons, and Weller Antique 07.
Right.
Very nice.
And one of the things that I noticed, again, I wasn't focused on it. It was like, okay, with our pairing journal out, just really concentrating and getting into it and just really focusing on what I'm getting it through each thirds. And I love what you said, Storm, of each quarters, because yeah, you can actually see, more transitions other than just the standard thirds. But I did pick up some chocolatey notes. I picked up a little bit of graham cracker, picked up a little bit of raisin on the retrohale on it. And the pairing back and forth with it was nice of it, to where the bourbon itself didn't enhance the peppery notes of it, but it didn't overpower the peppery notes, and really kind of brought out a little bit of stone fruit type notes with it, and back and forth. It was very enjoyable, and it was. And this is one of the things that when you're in situations like this, when you've heard us say, and Red and I both have talked about this so many times, when we're sitting down and we're writing a review, or we're doing an article on a pairing, we've eliminated all of our distractions. And we've got a couple of hours just to sit there and just focus on this. I'm not focused on, because I'm enjoying the conversation and learning more about Cigars for Words, and learning more about our guests. In this case, you, Storm. I'm not having things, to where it's a pairing to where it's causing me to go, oh, wait a minute, what the hell was that? It's like my pairing this morning, I did my pairing this morning, during my time, which is, with my, in the very early mornings, where it's like, oh yeah, that's not going good. And right, because that takes you away from where we are, and where we are is right now in the moment. But it was enough of a pairing that makes me curious enough about it to go, okay, I need to go pick up this cigar again, or see if I've got another one, because I may have one more. I know I had 3 at one point in time.
And I tend to smoke them as soon as I get them.
Yeah, I do too. And I was so glad that I had one, because I was like, oh God, please let me have one. Please let me have one. And I did. But and I knew about the cigar, and so that's why I wanted to go with a classic bourbon, which, I mean, you don't get much more classic in your bourbons than Weller,
Right.
And I'm enjoying this, and it's enough of it was. I picked up enough of it that it makes me want to go and sit down. Okay, I need to do an actual pairing review on this.
Well, I have a challenge for us.
Okay.
November, for our article, we will pair and break it down for the month of November for Veterans Day.
Let's do it.
I think that Weller is a good choice, and the only reason I say that, I don't know. I mean, I know Weller, and I've drank it, but I couldn't tell you right now what it tastes like. But I've done this since pandemic. I've done I don't know how many podcasts, but I've had at least 4 of them that have been, kind of like your format. There's a lot of alcohol and cigar pairing, and all the other 3 actually had Weller, believe it or not, with Harmon Cigar. So all of them but one was Harmon Solomon Cigar, and another one was with the new one is with Crete, the Ventura Slaughterhouse. But it was Weller, and I just think that is, people are not going to believe me when I'm saying this. It's just kind of like people are not going to believe the 3 of us that we did not get together before the show and say everybody bring a Harmon Solomon. But I think you have a great idea to do your November writings with the Weller and CFW cigar. I think it's a perfect fit. I love to read it when you're done. So make sure I get to see it.
I will, and I'll probably have a different one, because I'm gonna let Greybeard dissect the Weller or whatever the other one he has. But I immensely enjoyed this and appreciate it so much. There was one thing that, and I'm trying to remember exactly how to phrase it, that you did bring up whenever we first met you. And you were talking about like when y'all first came out and with the books, and I noticed that, like, a lot of charities have had issues with their books, but I wanted to commend Cigars for Warriors. Y'all have done an outstanding job with running in the foundation. It's just been absolutely beautiful, and y'all have always been transparent about it anytime y'all talked about it. So I kind of just wanted to say, if you could just kind of a little bit highlight that, because I feel like y'all need to be given credit for that, because it's amazing. It is just,
Well,
I mean, Greybeard and I talked about it afterwards. We were just amazed.
There's a couple of phenomenal watchdog groups that are all about watching charities. And my mind just went blank on the bigger one. But the other one is also part of is Candid, and then greatnonprofits.com, which is like a Yelp, with the Candid and their partner. Man, I can't believe I can't remember the name of it. I'm sure anybody's
Because I put you on the spot.
Yeah, anybody looked up for a charity, and it's the one I've had to put the most work into. That's what's bad. They gave us, to get on there in a good way, it's very hard, but they're the ones that actually broke about how bad Cigars, Wounded Warriors mismanaged their money, and Red Crosses mismanaged their money, and United Way, three of the charities I used to donate to, and then finding out how horribly ran they are. When half a penny 2016 of every dollar went to the troops, and then 86 cents goes to the salaries, and the other 30 and a half cents was to marketing. It's things that scares you. So we've been try to be very transparent on, like I said, the great nonprofits were been rated in the top 10% of the United States. We've also, with the Candid and other company, we were rated platinum. You got to go from being on air in a good way to bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. Each step you go, it's significantly more transparency. And it starts out with right off the bat is they want your 990 form from the IRS. That way you see all the numbers. And then after that, it's all sorts of stuff. They want to know your metrics. They want to know how your social interaction is, meaning how many people you have as African Americans, or even call themselves Black, Hispanic, Latinos, transsexuals, to LGBTQ community. They want to know all that, crazy as enough it is.
Wow.
And we actually we feel in every category. I mean, I think the last thing they want to know is my underwear size, and we ended up getting platinum off that. And I do not know the percentage of people make platinum. What I can tell you is that people make gold. We got an email that said only 0.05% of the people who are the 3.27 million nonprofits make it to gold.
Wow.
So
and then
0.05 and we make the platinum. So we're very, very, very proud of that, because we may be the most non-politically correct charity on the planet, but we're the most transparent. I don't give my minutes by any means of the board meeting, because I don't give a damn. That would make me a dumbass CEO to do that. But we want people to know how we spend the money, because I think that's fair. Do I want to have salaries someday? Yes, my ultimate dream is to have 3 administrative assistants. With 3 administrative assistants, I could quadruple our reach. I'm not looking ever, on a personal level. I would love to be able, on top of that, pay for, our marketing director does a lot of crazy hours. Robert Allen does a crazy amount of hours. Peter and Taro. I would love to give them a normal salary, but we're years and years away from that. But I try to be transparent about that as well. It's not something I'm against, but it is. I still always want us to be a majority volunteer charity. So yeah, I appreciate y'all saying that. It is something we very much are very proud of. Most people don't expect it when they see us there at platinum level. A lot of the communities you worked with, a lot of city managers I've worked with, the first thing they do is they go to that organization, look us up, and then we can start conversations. We are in at least, I think we're at 7 now, chambers of commerce. We only pay for 1. And I'm very proud of that because Chamber of Commerce never donates memberships, even to charities. So been very privileged about that. And again, realizing we are also the most non-politically correct charity because big corporations, first thing they hear things tobacco, they run.
Right.
So I for years I tried to seduce Trey Boring to the board and finally got him to agree to get on board with this. He runs a multi-million-dollar company, so he is our senior vice chair of business development. And I told him, he said, "What is my goal? I get our name outside of the community, getting us donations from corporations." And so one of the things I told him, I said, when you're talking is, yeah, we may be Cigars words, but there's no reason you can't say we're CFW. We send coffee, we send cutters, we send swag, and then we send cigars. We said, baby, that's an afterthought. So the only thing they heard is the first couple of things. Now it's a little bit misdirection, but at the end of the day, donations, that is the donation game. I'm not very good at donations. Exactly. As y'all seen, I typically run my mouth too much. Trey is very articulate. And he's very good about not running his mouth too much. And he knows how to talk to the big business bigwigs. So I think I answered your question, but we're very proud of that. Again, like you said, I appreciate y'all recognizing it. It's not something I always brag about, but it is when I have the opportunity, I will brag about it. Because it is a charity wide. It has to be a charity wide. And people are a lot smarter about charities these days than they used to be. People know how to ask, what is your administration cost? Ours is zero. The strict definition of admin cost is salaries. We have zero salaries, but we do give some travel expenses, goes to a travel committee, then it has to go through the finance committee, and then I have to sign off on it. So there's, it's not exactly easy. And we do it that way because we don't want people taking vacations on while they're going to work. We still don't want to pay for vacations. And the reality of life, should they get 100% of expenses taken care of? Absolutely. But the reality for us is never going to be able, never happen. Again, we're very proud of that. But but I do want people to recognize it isn't something we would not turn our heads to. We still love to have, some admin assistants that could do, you do this or you're fired. Not pretty please. Can you get this done? I know it's going to take you 15 minutes, but the next 6 months, I want to be able to say I want 40 hours of hard work.
Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, that's the goals. I think that's one of the goals you're asking about earlier.
Yeah. And I just remember walking away and like Greybeard and I were talking about that. And I'm like, that is extremely impressive that y'all have done that. And, and that even kind of like what you were saying is you check for things like that and you want to support, organizations that are going to do that. And our goal is to help to help y'all grow and get more donations and get more support. So thank you so much for telling us all about how we can help with Cigars for Warriors. And I learned something interesting for next time for donations for Cigar for Warriors. It's more of the flavored cigars. Never would have thought about that.
I never would have thought that too. And I want to close this out by saying, Storm, you have a commitment from Leaf and Grain Society that we will partner with you, that we will support you, and that we will do whatever it is that we can within our controls to be able to be another organization that is there for you and everything that Operation Cigars for Warriors is doing, because we 100% stand behind it and believe in it.
Yes.
Well, it means a lot that y'all say that. It means a lot to any company that tells that, but especially our podcast and other media affiliations, because you all have your own market, your own community that supports you, and typically they're very individualized. And it's every time we get a commitment like that, it means that we're getting more recognition, we're getting more support, and I'm very happy with even a 1% uptick on our support. That means tremendous value for us. Guys like you, I can see a significantly greater uptick on our support, whether it's volunteers, whether it's just simply going to greatnonprofits.com and putting a simple review about how much you love CFW. As simple as that actually goes a long way. And people will be amazed how much just putting a little 5-star, this is a great organization, I love this.
Yeah.
How much that affects our grants.
Oh, it does.
Other communities. So, I mean, you're thinking, I don't have time to do anything for CFW. I love the organization. That's a great way to do it. Any kind of charity-based website, whether it's reviews or great nonprofits, go and put a positive statement. Go to Facebook and just say, I love Cigars for Warriors. And just drop it at that. It does have mileage, and it does, for us, it means a lot.
So, and if you could please state your website, because we talked about Cigar for Warriors, but
we are cigarsforwarriors.org. But if you get org, we also work with .com and .net and .us, etc. They all work. But .org is what we have on all our pamphlets and brochures and all that. Go in there. It's a new website. Still got some bugs and kinks to knock out, but we're very excited about it. We're very excited about the next 2 phases of it. It's something we've never been able to do. It's still all paid for. When you think about what they've already done, is $40,000-$50,000 website. Just knowing the back steps that have already been going, all the coding efforts that are built in already in place for phase 2 and 3. But yeah, greatly appreciate all y'all support. It means tremendous amount to me, especially since y'all Texans. You know, I'm a Texan first always. So, and I have no problem saying that. If you think your state's better than us, then prove it. Out donate Texas. Now I will happily say you out donated us.
I'm going to say if you think your state is better than us, you're wrong.
Prove it.
Prove it.
It's like it was
Step
like
up.
Davy Crockett said, "You can go to hell, and I'm going to Texas."
Right.
Well, Storm, thank you so much for this time. Thoroughly appreciate it. We love you guys. We love everything that you're doing. It's what we've talked about. Learned so much more than I mean, I thought I knew what Cigars for Warriors was doing, and wow, you just blew me away. Everybody that's watching and listening, you know, make sure that you go out to cigarforwarriors.org. Check them out. Check out their Facebook page, their YouTube, their LinkedIn, their
TikTok, Instagram.
They're everywhere. Go out there,
Every avenue,
and see what they're doing, and let's support them and give them all the support that they need and that they deserve, because the only way
we got
is through our support.
One thing I would say is our Instagram, we got taken hostage and they wanted money for it, and I refused. So we have a whole new Instagram account. We're having to start back all the way from zero. So while it doesn't mean a whole lot to me, because I don't care about numbers, and that way the businesses that support us do care about those numbers. So click follow. It means a lot for us. If you're a YouTuber, go to our channel. Again, you know, it's the same thing you hear from every social media company. Hit follow, and it means a lot to those companies that want to donate to us. They want to see the influence we have. And if you're like me, you have an account everywhere, but you don't know what you're doing, just hit follow. You never go wrong.
I'm right there with you. And make sure also that you also help support by picking up their Cigar for Warriors, Harem and Solomon. That's all 3 of us smoked this evening. Go to the never.com. Pick up a couple of the numbers for the Cigar for Warriors out there. Beautiful craftsmanship. And those are some ways, but as again, go click follow, and even just write a message, 5 stars, do something to help them out. So, because they're doing great work.
And your local shop, because we all of us here buy cigars from our local shop. Go and talk to your local shop. Are they a Cigars for Warrior shop? No. We'll talk to them about them. Tell them tell them that you will buy more cigars from them if they will support Cigars for Warriors.
Mhm.
Tell them you're tired of driving out of town to support the CFW and buying cigars from another shop. And I trust you, they don't get their peak up.
Oh, and thank you, Yogi, for fixing that. It's
Yes.
Cigars for Warriors. We're Cigars. It's plural.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Cigars plural. Yes. Well,
Yes, it's Cigars plural for FOR, and it's Warriors plural as well.
Well, Storm, appreciate you very much, brother. Love you, brother. Look forward to seeing you at the next event that we're able to get together on. Good luck with you guys out at the Boutique Cigar Festival, and hope you have a great evening, brother.
Appreciate you guys. It's been a pleasure being here and a true honor. I've always loved your show. Can't wait to see y'all face to face again and get a couple of good hugs and shake hands with y'all. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. And you have a great evening.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. And then, and for us, thank you for joining us. Greybeard, did you want to add anything?
Just what do we got coming next week?
I'm working on something. I haven't gotten confirmation, so hopefully I'll get the confirmation soon and get that to you. It seems like now that school's starting back up, confirmations have kind of like, it was PCA and then we were getting a little bit in, and then now other things have picked up. I think the fall is kind of coming up, so I'm gonna have to go harass people, you know. And well, I shouldn't say harass, go make confirmations and kind of double check for that. So I will get that. We will also have graphics telling. So that's where I'll leave it at that.
Well, I'm going to give a little bit more details than that, not any names, but I know that we're talking to some wineries. I know that we're talking to distilleries, to both some name brand, big brand distilleries and some distilleries, bringing them onto the show. We're talking to a couple of different other cigar manufacturers, bringing them on, and we're going to be doing some more pairing challenges throughout. So we've got a lot of great things coming up. This particular broadcast itself is going to be posted onto our YouTube channel, plus we'll also post it on our website and our Facebook group page and the Facebook group as well. So please, if you're coming in later, make sure watch it all, support everything that Operation Cigars for Warriors are doing. But I'd say let's call it a night, and as we say, explore the pairings.
There's something for everyone. Have a great night, y'all.
Have a great night, everybody.
Okay, bye.